Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jamar. Today's episode 133, and we're going to be interviewing Mark and Sean. So today's a little bit of a different setup for us. We're going to be doing two people at once. How are you guys doing this morning?
Oh, doing great, Jim.
Great, Jim. Good to be here.
I'm glad to hear that. And we'll talk a little bit more about your podcast, but look at you guys. You're all dressed up, ready to go in your podcast info and uniforms.
It's a filming day for us, and so
we're here anyway.
We get done with this. We're going to be
camera ready.
We're camera ready.
All right, perfect. So let's get started with one of you. You tell me, you guys decide who. Tell us about your childhood and growing up. Let's talk about that first.
Well, we have very different childhoods. We grew up very differently. I'll go ahead and give it a quick start here. I grew up in fairly lower middle class home. I had a mom that was a stay-at-home mom. I had a dad that was he was an electrician, a union electrician, and so we had enough. We had a living. We didn't ever do without, but we didn't always have what we wanted, but we always had what we needed, I guess you could say. I didn't grow up with alcoholic or drug addict parents. I didn't grow up around a lot of that. They kind of sheltered me from a lot of that. But I will say that from a very
real quick,
young
when
age,
you say shelter, did they drink a little bit and they kept you sheltered from that, or they just did nothing?
No.
Teetotalers.
No, I mean, my dad's the kind of guy that still to this day, he could buy a 6-pack of beer and it'd take him 2-3 months to drink it.
Okay.
So he drinks a beer when he cuts the grass maybe or something. That's about it.
Gotcha.
They didn't shelter me from it altogether, but there was some folks who abused in my family, some who abused alcohol, possibly drugs, all that. They kept me away from that side of things, I guess is what I mean by sheltered. They didn't go to bars. They didn't do any of that kind of stuff. I wasn't a tag along at the bar while they were drinking. A lot of the stories that I've heard, in and around the rooms of recovery, but they were strict, but not super strict. For me, it was a very normal upbringing, but everybody's normal because that's just what you're used to. So it was, I don't have a lot to look back on that I would say drove me from them, that I would say drove me to drink. I can say that very early on, I had low self-esteem. And early in life, I learned to lie. I guess that was like a telltale sign. Was there
a root cause that you ever figured out to you having those issues?
I think it's part of me. I don't know there's a root cause. I can go back and look at some issues like parental issues with other. I don't believe it was any like severe trauma. I believe it was just kind of how I grew up. I grew up with a badass dad. He was the kind of guy that didn't take no crap off anybody, and I wanted to be a badass guy like my dad was, and I didn't ever feel like that. So I kind of overcompensated, trying to be some badass that I don't think I ever really was. But I tried to be that. And, as I grew up, I was a very nice kid up through like grade school. And then once I got to middle school, I started getting bigger than other people. I'm a pretty big guy, 6'3", 280 pounds. I mean, even back then I was 6'3", or high school, I was 6'3" and 240 pounds. So I was always a big guy. And once I realized that I was bigger than everybody else, I didn't let people pick on me so much. So I kind of retaliated in the other direction. But, it's funny you ask about a root cause. I haven't ever come to a conclusion about a single root cause. I think it was partly just me and who I am. And it was probably also some of the way that I was raised. But I mean, I have 2 brothers who don't seem to be like I am. So, and I feel like they were probably raised in pretty much the same way that I was. So there's not a single event, a single trauma that I can kind of go back to and look at. I think it's just kind of the way that I was raised and the way that I am kind of come together to form the person that I wound up being. And, you know, like I said, I started lying at a very early age. I started cussing at an early age. I would hide all of this from the adults in my life. So I wanted the adults in my life to think I was awesome. But all of that led up to, I didn't start drinking and drugging. You know, growing up when I did, in school when Reagan and Nancy Reagan were around, it was this just say no era.
Yep.
Way back when. So I grew up in that just say no era. And I was a pretty firm believer in just say no. I didn't do any drugs until I got well into my 20s. But I did drink some. I toyed with drinking whenever I was young. And I can say this, I don't think I ever, still to this day, have ever drank for the enjoyment or the taste. I drank from the first time I got tipsy. I always wanted to be tipsy or drunk. I never once went out just to have a beer with friends. If I started to drink, I wanted to go all the way with it. And that's kind of part of my personality as well. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. If I'm going to do it, I want to go hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go all the way.
Gung ho, baby.
And go big or go home.
Yep.
So with that being said, that was kind of my childhood, and that was all in me from a very early age. If you're going to start, just go ahead and do it hardcore all the way. So that was kind of my childhood. I don't know. You want to speak to yours a little bit more?
Now I was thinking about that thing you talk about being in a meeting and you say something, people, yeah, I know that. He was saying something.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, my upbringing was definitely different. I grew up with parents that loved me, but somewhere along the way, and again, I've been able to do a lot of self work, so I know some of my root cause. And my drug of choice was food. It was my comfort. It's what I put in my mouth. My crisis point is when I was pushing 400 pounds and doing that. But how did I get there? We grew up. My dad was in the Navy. I lived pretty much everywhere up the East Coast. I always tell the story. I changed schools 3 times in the 2nd grade, so I never had a sense of rooting or grounding. But I found comfort in stuffing my face. If I felt alone, I ate. If I was sad, I ate. If I was happy, I ate. Combine that with that good teaching, clean your plate, being a completionist, being all or nothing. He just said it. That's what I was laughing at. Going, yeah, that's it. If I was going to eat, I was going to eat. And
somebody once asked me, well, if I remember my first addiction, first words out of my mouth, cookies. Because when I was younger, my parents were divorced, and when I got home from school, I was alone. And I remember, how chips always come in a sleeve.
Yeah.
I would eat a whole sleeve, and I'd be like, I feel better. I get a sugar high.
What's
going to happen if I eat more? And then what will happen if I eat more after that? And I just started spiraling out of control and eating too much stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
I saw some memes about that, and it had a couple of rows of cookies, and it said, "Hey, you want to do a line?"
Absolutely.
I totally relate to that. That's the funny thing. But when Sean said, that all or nothing, I'm all in or all out personality, definitely my hallmark. If I'm I like playing games. And as a gamer, I'm a completionist. And so if I don't get it all done every little bit, it drives me crazy. So those are part of that personality. But somewhere along the way, I started believing a couple lies about myself that really fed into those insecurities. Nobody wanted to be around me. I wasn't never going to be enough. If people knew who I was, they'd reject me. And so instead of trying to connect, trying to do that, I was a very isolated person. And again, I found my comfort in my drug of choice, which was just food. Now, it was socially acceptable. It was the only thing that I could have got away with in my community growing up. Grew up very religious. There wasn't, I wasn't going to be using drugs. I wasn't going to be using alcohol. Again, we're a year apart. So yes, I grew up in the just say no era. Yeah. And again, the things that I knew I was heading towards in life, service to others, that was kind of ingrained early, but I was still always struggling with this. So no matter when no matter where I was, whether it's growing up years, high school, young adult years, I never felt like I was enough. And so when I didn't feel that way, I wanted to feel comfort. And that's kind of what I did for years.
So is there a point that either of you realized when you were young that you had an addiction issue?
That's a great question. For me, no. Uh, I don't think I ever considered it addiction. I knew that if I drank, I, I didn't drink until I felt good. I drank into completion, which was pass out, get so drunk I couldn't walk, whatever. And early on in my drinking career, I didn't drink all the time. I didn't drink every day. I drank a few times a year, as a teenager, at big parties or whatever I would drink. But then moving on up, I got married and had kids really young. And I didn't
How
do a
old
lot
were
of,
you?
I was 20 when my son was born. My oldest son was born. So, it was, I was working in a bar at the time. So there was alcohol around, but it was kind of preached into us as people who worked at the bar not to drink, not to get real drunk. You didn't want to be impaired while you were working in a bar. So, I did some construction and stuff like that during the day, and then I worked at the bar at night. But funny enough, when I was working at the bar during those early years, I didn't drink that much. But then split up with my wife at 25, and that was kind of where it all went downhill. I started getting kind of depressed, and I started going out with my friends like pretty much every night. I think there was a time I had broken up with my wife, and we were in the process of getting a divorce, and my best friend back then had broken up with his longtime girlfriend. And I want to say we went out drinking like 68 nights in a row at one point. I think that was as high as we got it to. And I mean, we went out to a bar, which quite honestly, thinking back on it, that probably wasn't that big a deal later on in my drinking life, because I went to the bar every day after work. So I'd go have a few drinks, whatever, then go to the house and finish myself off with a bottle of liquor. But that being said, I had that early on. I didn't do drugs. I drank, but somewhere around 28, I had friends of mine that I hung out with, and we were a very rock and roll crew of guys, leather pants, leather jackets, out at the bar, out at dive bars and things like that. And we all drank heavy, and a lot of them partied with heavier drugs. And I had never done any, and they were all cool with that. I mean, I was around them when they did it. I just didn't do it. And then something clicked one night, and I was like, yeah, let me try one of those lines. Then they never asked me. I never felt any peer pressure to do it with them. I don't know what happened. One night I told them to chop me a line too. And I did it. And probably within 2 months, 3 months of doing that first bit of cocaine, I was selling it to support my habit. I went
So
all
I guess
in
it's
very
safe to-
fast.
I was about to say, it's safe to say that you enjoyed it.
I did. And sitting here, this Sunday, I'll be 9 years sober, clean and
Oh,
sober.
congrats. That's amazing.
So being almost 9 years clean and sober, I can still sit here and tell you today that if I think about the way cocaine makes me feel, it doesn't make me want to go do it or anything else, but there's something in me that kind of goes, you can almost like smell it or taste it or something. I'm like, oh, yeah, that stuff makes you feel really good. So yeah, I really liked it a lot. I loved alcohol. And I say this all the time. When I first got to rehab, I went to rehab thinking I had a cocaine problem, and I did. But the truth was, kind of after doing some self work and getting to know myself a little better, the truth was I don't ever really remember waking up and just dying to have some cocaine. I was dying to have a drink, and then about 2 or 3 drinks in, then I wanted some cocaine. So the cocaine is what seemed like a bigger problem to me because it took all my money. I can drink at home a whole lot cheaper than I can do cocaine at home. So I had already kind of become the kind of drinker who just sat at home and drank by myself all the time. So I was spending a lot of money, doing drugs. So it seemed like a bigger problem. I think in the end, alcohol was probably my bigger problem. I think, quite honestly, all drugs, any mind altering substances are my problem because I did them all. If what I loved and was around and available, that's what I did. If that wasn't available and somebody had something else, I'd try that too. I tried it all at some point or another, but some friends, my buddies and I, we used to sit around in the bar and talk about kind of the question you asked about whether or not we thought we were addicted. We used to sit around and laugh. Oh yeah, we're alcoholics. We're going to be those alcoholics. We're going to be this, because, it was a dive bar. There'd be 60, 70-year-old guys coming in and drinking, sitting there all day long, sipping on their beers. They're like, that's going to be us one day. We're going to be those guys sitting in the bar when we're 60. Yeah. It sounded kind of romantic. I thought it was going to be fun. I don't want to do that now. That's not the life I lead. But yeah, we kind of made fun of it. So I guess in some ways I never honestly thought that I had a problem until it got so bad I couldn't deny it.
Right.
But in some way in my mind, the seed was there. I just wasn't really ready to grapple with it, I guess you could say. What do you think about that? How often or how long was it before you felt like you had a problem?
Well, straight up till I was 50. Well, and I'll say that, and there's some irony in that one because, I said I knew growing up that I was called to a life of service. At one point I thought that was being in Christian ministry. So I went through Bible college, was a pastor for a number of years, went to Christian counseling, was able to help people with their stuff.
Quick question, because I've always wanted to ask somebody, what is Bible college like? Like, how is that? I think it would be interesting because I'm not religious myself, but I do think religion is pretty cool. And I would love to, I've always been interested. What's it like to go to Bible college?
Boy, if I put 10 Bible college graduates in this room and asked them that question, they'd all have a different answer.
Yeah.
It's probably the only place on the planet where you get the most straight-laced people and the most messed up people together in the same room. and I'm smiling as I say that, but anybody who's been to Bible college will go, yeah, because people, because sometimes, to be honest with you, people with problems will sometimes use Bible college as a place to get straight, get right, no matter what your problem is in that situation. It doesn't always work. Everything that they tell you not to do is happening on the college campuses. There, people are drinking, people are sexing, people are drugging. But for the most part, there are people there with sincere hearts like we have now, just wanting to help their fellow man. And it's the path that they've chosen to take. And that's kind of what led me there from that situation. Ultimately, I didn't stay in that profession because it didn't work for me. For a lot of reasons that's a whole nother podcast to talk about. But we went from that, I would say, working in a room with people to my wife and I being trained in counseling and helping individuals and couples and everything else. And that brought us a lot of joy. We did that for a number of years. But still, in all of that, going back to where I was struggling, I never felt like it was enough. I could help people find freedom. I could help people deal with the underlying causes of their addiction. But the whole time I'm sitting there just spinning, and, I would try to bare knuckle it. When I finally sought professional help for weight, I made the joke to the doctor. I said, have you lost weight before? I said, yes, I've lost 600 pounds. His mouth drops open and said, hey, don't be impressed. It's the same 30 pounds 20 times. I know how to do that. I'm really good at that. Talk about how many people go to a program and they can make it to 30 days, 60 days,
right,
120 days, and they repeat that cycle.
Yeah.
The issue is I never dealt with the underlying problem. And so as I start going through a process of getting some surgical help for weight loss, we have to start getting psychological help at the same time. And it was in that process that it was like the light bulb came on and says, dude, you're addicted. And I went, oh, crap. But then for me, because I was already steeped in modalities, I went, oh, I have to do inner work. Oh, and I started laughing at myself and immediately started on a journey and immediately started looking at all the literature for people coming out of my same background and saying, we were talking about this before we started filming, warning people that, you can trade addictions, and it's a common situation. And so it's realized oh, wait a minute, if I have a propensity to switch from food to alcohol or food to drugs or food to sex or whatever in that situation, there's an underlying cause. I need to deal with that. And so for me, it was, I don't want to say late in the game, but it was finally connecting the dots of everything that I had done professionally for years going, I kind of got to live this, and that's kind of it's funny to say, but that's kind of where that light bulb went on. And it was not long after that we met at our local a chance meeting at our local cigar shop. And that's a whole nother story. But
Right.
why were you doing it at a cigar shop? Well, I needed to find something different to put in my mouth. That was all it was. I needed to, joking aside, change addictions. And I figured that was probably that's the one I wanted to go to. I'll just be honest with you in that situation. But I had smoked cigars in the past, and it was a pleasure. It was a time for me to center myself. And I do run into him, and it almost reminds me, a pastor and a drunk walk into a cigar bar,
Right.
and 2 years later, we're sitting here in a studio talking about our experiences. And it's like, if you ever feel like the odd couple,
Right.
this is kind of where we're at. But that's kind of my story.
And a guy whose adult life is filled with ministry and helping people, and a guy whose adult life is filled with doing a lot of drugs and wearing a lot of leather jackets and getting in a lot of fights and snorting a lot of cocaine. So yeah, we're kind of the odd couple, but it works. I mean, we're both on our own path of searching for what makes us better people. And I found something to help me. I think he's found something that's helped him. And I just feel compelled to try to share what I've learned and what I know and what helped me. And I know everyone's not going to relate with me, but that's why you're telling your story, Jim.
Yeah.
That's why he's telling his story. And we all need to come out and tell our stories because there's people out there that need to hear what we have to say so that they can relate to it. And hopefully it gives them some hope that they can do what they need to do to get themselves well.
Yeah, great. That, and I would say this stuff like people who are doing what you're doing. People are doing what we're doing. And there's a lot of groups that sprung up in COVID because we had to survive. We had to figure out how to connect because we need the fellowship. I mean, we can't do this alone. Anybody who thinks you can, no, don't try. It's just not worth it. You could, but
it's not as good. It's just not as good to do it alone. It's for me, it's better to have a tribe of like-minded folks that you can kind of share and commiserate and talk.
I came out of rehab in March of 2020. I only went there 8 days because I was afraid of being stuck there with quarantine. I didn't know how it was going to work.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was forced to do it on my own. There were no support groups. Zoom was new. So a lot of people, when you hopped on a meeting, there were like 40 people on there and you were not getting a chance to talk. If you got a chance to talk, it was for 1 or 2 minutes.
Right.
And it's like, what are you going to do with that? It was terrible. So that's how I developed the program, was what I did. But the second I was able to start a community, life got easier. Like you said, it is so much easier with people around you. Let me tell you, it is so important. I don't suggest anyone do it the way I did. I was put in circumstances where I had no choice.
Right. Absolutely.
That's a little different.
That's amazing.
We just put an episode together and we talked about the village life of recovery and how it takes this group of people. We need those elder statesmen that can say, hey, try it this way.
I was talking about it in the one, like you were saying, that I'm sitting there and there's 3 kinds of folks that I can relate to. I can relate to the person who's got more time than me doing what I'm doing. And man, that's what I want. I can also relate to the person who's got less time than me. And man, I think maybe I can help them. And I know I don't want to go back to that point. So that helped me. And then there's the people who are on the same level as me that we can kind of commiserate and go, oh yeah, I'm having this. Oh yeah, I'm having this problem too. And let's figure out what the heck we're going to do about this problem.
Yep.
So it's really kind of an amazing way of life. I love this conversation that the 3 of us are having right now. I don't know about you, but I never had these really deep conversations about the way I felt. I had conversations about the ball game and the weather and politics but not stuff that was directly related to me and my inner feelings and how I worked. I never talked to anybody about that.
Well, our generation, we were raised, you're a man. You don't talk about that stuff. You push it way down.
Push it down,
let it settle
keep
there.
on going.
and keep on going. And then every now and then it'll burst out, but you put it right back down.
Right. And we were just
We were
expecting
mad. No
it's going to
crying.
burst out.
No crying, no talking about your feelings. That's for girls.
No, exactly. And the same thing in church circles. How are you doing, brother? I'm great. Praise God. I mean, it doesn't matter if your life is falling apart. Doesn't matter if you had an argument with your spouse on the way to church. You're fine once you get out.
That's right.
You know, dry your tears up.
Life's awesome. Yeah, man. Bless you, brother. We're going to keep on. I mean, it's the same thing. You walk into the bar. How's it going? Oh, hell, I had a bad day at work. Oh, you need a drink. Yep. And then that was it. That's the extent of what's going on with you, you know?
Yeah. And so I probably started pushing past, I would say, the BS level of interpersonal communications when my time working for a church ended, and it wasn't a happy time. It was a little bit traumatic. And my wife showed me this example of telling people, no, that's pretty shitty right now. I don't feel good. I'm pissed off. And of course, to me, I'm going, you can't say that. But it taught me a lesson that, the world didn't come to an end with her being real. And it's like, maybe I need to start adapting it. So again, and from there we went into counseling, and then we started seeing this example of people, this shift starting to happen. The generation younger than us owning up to the fact that, hey, I messed up. It's okay. Yeah. I want to get help. And I was going to bring this point up earlier, stuff like what you're doing, what we're doing, what other groups are doing. We're removing the stigma of addiction. We're removing the shame. We're removing, we all still use this word anonymous, but people are coming out of the closet being open about the fact that I'm not okay, and that's okay. But I'm working on me. And I think that's probably been the biggest change we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years.
We're moving towards, and it's still not, we're not there yet. There's a lot of work to do in society, but we're moving towards it's okay to be you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that part
is, it's okay.
That is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And I think that shift and that change in society is changing a lot of the traditions. I'm sure you get it. We get it pushed back when we put on an episode. We get people saying, you don't know this, that. Like, wait a minute, time out. At some point, you got introduced to the truth. We're just folks like you, folks like us. We're just sharing these timeless truths in a new medium, in a new format, because people are receiving information in a different way.
Right.
People say to me, they're like, your show's obviously not anonymous. It's like, all I'm doing is basically giving you a platform it's like a speaker meeting, except it's able to reach more people, because guess what? Anybody can walk into a meeting. Meetings are open, so you don't have to be an alcoholic or an addict. Like I said, 90% of the meetings are open. So right there, when you're speaking in front of anyone, you're no longer anonymous, because someone might recognize your face, just like on YouTube, someone might recognize your face.
Yeah,
same difference.
There's this saying I've seen going around a lot lately, and I love it. It's, I recover out loud so that others don't suffer and die.
I knew you were going to say that. I love that. Someone just posted it the other day.
Yeah. And again, the road we're taking is not for everybody, but as we start getting secure, as we start getting clean, as we start knowing our purpose in life, it's incumbent upon us to follow through with it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm sitting here today, not stroking out, not using a walker, all this other stuff, because I reached out and asked for help. And just like everybody who's been successful in any program, I plugged myself in the program. I told you I was a completionist, and and they told me, well, you can probably get down to 250 pounds. And my initial response was, F that, man. I'm going for it. I'm going to lose half my weight. I haven't quite done it, but I'm okay with that. But I did do what I told you, 175. And so, I got down to 215, and it's like people go, so that's 185. See, I'm not doing math. All that to say is, but I had to change my life. I had to come into this new understanding of what food was. And again, I had an addiction that I couldn't go cold turkey and quit, because I got to eat every day. I hate to say this.
The one thing I say to people, that's why I give food addicts a lot of respect, because like you said, not to be redundant, you have to eat. There's no two ways about it. There's no abstinence.
But I had to learn what food was. And food isn't a comfort. It's just fuel.
It's nutrition.
And I had to change this. And again, probably the biggest thing, some of the things that we're coming up with out with in the next 6 months, is we're going to be talking about those mindset shifts. I mean, the big book even talks about the fact that this is primarily a disease of the mind. Well, it is.
It is.
And you got to start here. I think one of the things that we've seen, we were talking about this yesterday, is like the drop-off point for certain people who aren't doing the inside work, for lack of a better word. You
Right.
know, you can bare knuckle it for a while, but there's a point at which that if the inside's not lining up with the outside actions, if your belief systems aren't lined up, you're going to fall off the wagon, because I call it the BS meter is going to go off in your head. You're going to say, I'm just going to bare knuckle it. And you're going to hear the voice saying, that's just crap. And at some
Well-
point you're going to fall for it.
Well, at some point, I can't speak for everybody, but I know my head will justify anything.
Mm.
And
Oh, yeah.
like-
Oh, yeah. Oh, if you're happy, do it. If you're sad, do it. If it's
Well,
just a
that-
normal day, do it.
Right. I mean, I was, it's really no different than kind of like I was talking about walking into the bar. You walk into the bar, you had a bad day. Oh, you need a drink. I had a great day. Oh, you need a drink. I had a mediocre day. You need a drink. Well, it's that same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the reasoning is, because the ends don't justify the means. Did I say that right? Yeah,
Yes.
anyway, whatever. So anyway, I'm not trying to get back to a mind altering substance. I'm trying to live my life every day in a way that it feels good. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes I have grief. Sometimes I have sadness. But I try to live my life in a way that it feels good to know that I have tools to deal with that.
Yeah.
I don't have to cover it up. I don't have to go crawl into a bottle or a baggie. I can deal with life on life's terms and be okay. And it's not, for me, it's not about life as awesome and amazing. And I talk about this a lot. It's when I was out living that life, running and gunning and drugging and drinking and everything else. And drinking is a drug, whatever. But the life was always a roller coaster. I was either high up top, everything was awesome, or I was super low. And I never lived my life just kind of okay, where everything was going to be all right. The good was really only this good, but I built it up to being this good in my mind. And the lows were really only this low, but I built them down to being this low. It felt like it was the worst thing in the world. Well, none of that was really true. It was all my mind playing tricks on me. And then the mind altering substances didn't help that. But now I just found this peace, and kind of, it's going to be okay. I can be a little sad. I can be real sad. I can be happy. I can be super happy. But what it really is about for me in the end is getting right and getting truthful with my emotions, instead of exaggerating everything. Because I had this really bad tendency of exaggerating everything. Everything was better or worse than it really was. And, I was the worst person in the world when I came in. I can't imagine, hey, there's Buttercup behind you. I was the worst person in the world whenever I came in. But I wasn't. I had just built that up in my mind. I thought no one was as bad as me. That wasn't the truth. I sat down in a room and listened to 20 other people talk, and those 20 other people had done stuff as bad or worse than I had done. That's one of the great things about finding that community. But I've gotten to this point in life where I want to live life kind of on the level. I want to be okay, and I want to know, and I do know, that I can live life on life's terms. I can be I can be happy, and I can be sad, and I can be at peace at the same time. Just because I'm grieving doesn't mean I can't be at peace.
Right.
I can be at peace while I'm grieving, sad, whatever's going on. I can also have peace in my life. It doesn't always work that way. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I freak out. I have really bad days. But my really bad days aren't nearly as bad as they used to be. Boy, they're a whole lot better now. I have something. Go ahead.
Going back to when you guys got sober, when you first realized you had a problem, what was your first gut reaction? Was it, I need help? Was it, I need to ask a specific person for help? Or what was your gut reaction when you said, oh shit, I really have an addiction issue?
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I think for me, it was being in a doctor's office, signing up for a bariatric surgery, and starting reading through the literature, and they start describing these tendencies that people are going through and the pitfalls that you fall into. And I realized immediately, like I said earlier, all the people I've helped with their underlying issues, I said, I'm that's who I am. And it was for me, it was a comparison. About a year before I sought that surgery, my dad had passed away. And one of the things he said, it was so funny, and it stuck with me, and it's really what was my impetus. He said something to the effect that says, I'm not afraid to die, it's just I'm afraid about what I'm going to miss. And it caused me to take a hard look at my life, my kids. I thought, the way I'm going to miss all this. I'm going to throw it all away. And once I started working on myself, the outside, it immediately became necessary that, oh gosh, you got to work on the inside. And so it wasn't a shame issue for me, because once I realized, and I think the doctor I went to took the stigma away from me. He says, you've got a disease. And he flat out said, without help, you're going to be on this cycle for the rest of your life. And once I realized that I needed help, it was easy for me to accept it, because I wanted to change from that standpoint. Again, there's a lot of people say, well, you just took the easy way out. No, I didn't. It's like a major surgery is that, and you got to learn to eat again, but it doesn't work for everybody. We talk about how 12-step programs don't work for everybody. It doesn't work for everybody. People can get the surgery, lose a lot of weight, and I've seen people gain it all back because they've learned to compensate. They learned to get their fix back, even with a stomach that's a third of the size. So for me, I still had to go work those steps. I still had to change my relationship with food and see it for what it was, and not fall into the trap of just replacing my addiction with something else, something even more harmful in that situation. So I was in a different place than a lot of the people I've worked with in the past were. But for me, having the back knowledge and the light coming on let me fill in a lot of the blanks instantly in my head.
So for me, I'll try to do the short version of this story. I'll just a little bit of where I was at on the day that I decided to get some help. So I had been on about a week-long bender. I had been trying to cut back for a year at least. I knew that I had a problem, and I knew it was messing my life up. I had really been trying to cut back on drinking and drugging. I was doing basically every week. When I got paid every other week, I would blow most of my money. I'd keep just enough money to make sure I had liquor at home for the next 2 weeks until I got paid again. But I'd spend a bunch, everything else that I had that it was possibly be disposable, and then some. I was spending on liquor and cocaine and hanging out and going out to bars and partying. So I'd been trying to cut back, and I would wake up in the mornings and get ready to go to work. And when I woke up, I'm not drinking today. I would just tell myself, I'm not doing it today. I'm not going to drink. And before I left for work, I'd be filling a water bottle up with vodka, putting it in my lunchbox so that I could nip off of it. And I would tell myself, I would even lie to myself. I'd say, well, I'm not going to drink that today, but that's just in case I start getting jittery. I need a little something to nip on. By 9 or 10 o'clock, I'd be drinking, and I'd drink all day at work and then come home and drink till blackout. I drank till blackout every night the last few years of my drinking. And so I'd been trying to cut back, and I couldn't. And then finally I woke up this one morning. I say I woke up, I came to on a particular morning, and I'll never forget. So I had a 2-bedroom, 2-bath place, and I lived by myself. My bedroom was on one end of the house, and the other bedroom was on the other side of the house. And I didn't even sleep in my bedroom anymore because I was so far down, and my room was just, I hadn't washed my sheets. I hadn't done anything. I mean, I was a really bad, low down mess. My house was a complete wreck. So usually I either passed out on the couch or I'd mosey back to the spare bedroom at that point, because I had messed it up quite as bad. So I'd go back to the spare bedroom and pass out. So I woke up on the bed in my spare bedroom, looked on the nightstand, and there I had a pistol, which I carried with me all the time, even drunk as hell. It was a 9mm pistol and an empty bottle of vodka. a half-gallon bottle of vodka. So I sat there for a while and I did not want to drink, and I didn't have any more alcohol in the house, and I didn't want to drink. And I literally thought, I'm going to have to use this. I picked it up and had it sitting in my lap. I'm going to have to use this because I can't stop drinking and I don't know how to stop drinking. And I sat there for, it seems like a couple hours. I don't honestly know how long it was. I sat there and thought about it. And at some point,
you're talking about killing yourself?
Killing myself, yeah. I sat there and seriously considered, with the gun in my hand. And I had thought about suicide before because life had been bad in other times before. But I don't think I ever considered it to be a real true option like I did that day. I was very close to committing suicide that morning, and I didn't. And I'm not a real religious guy either. I was raised going to church, but I got away from that. But looking back on it now, I do have a spiritual life for sure. I have a higher power. And the only thing that I can tell you is that when I look back on it, is that there was some sort of spiritual intervening that happened. And because I had been telling myself that I couldn't do it. And then all of a sudden I went, well, maybe I could ask for help. And that morning I went ahead and got on up, got a shower, went to my parents' house. My parents have been begging me to get help for a while. And I just kept telling them, I'm not that bad. I don't drink that much. I'd lie.
It was bad enough that other people were noticing?
Oh yeah. My parents had been trying to get me help for a while. I mean, so I always make a joke about this in meetings. I drank so much that I hid my drinking from my heavy drinking friends. I would go to the bar to drink with them, and I'd have a bottle in my truck, and I'd sneak out of my truck and drink some extra and then come back in to drink with them. I mean, it was when you're hiding your alcoholism from your, I don't want to call anyone else an alcoholic, but from your heavy drinking friends, that's pretty good. There's an indication there. It could be an indicator. So
you might have had a problem.
I may have had a problem.
You may have.
Yeah. But anyway, I went and asked my folks. I said, look, I can't quit. I've been trying and I can't. I'm going to need some help. And I had a friend of mine, my buddy Jay, who he had been through a few different programs. And I knew that he had stayed at one of the ones, the last one that he had went to and worked there. I'd kind of heard it through the grapevine. This was in Florida, and he was in North Carolina. So I called him. Come to find out, he had left that program, left working there. And anyway, I called him, and he was on vacation with his mother and his daughter. They were up in like the mountains of Pennsylvania or something. But he stopped and took time out of his day to talk to me. And he wound up calling back to that place where he had just been and talking to his friends he still had there and get me in. So that was kind of how I came to go to rehab. In the meantime, while I was waiting to get a bed there, which it took me about a week to get in there, in the meantime, I went and actually seen my doctor. For the first time in my life, I was honest about my drinking. So something happened somewhere. I wanted to get better. I don't know that I wanted to get better. I just did not want to live the way that I was living anymore. I was so sick and tired of it that I was willing to kill myself. So either it had to get better or I was going to kill myself. So I was just completely sick and tired with what my life had become. I knew that I was not the man that I thought that I was supposed to be. And I look, back then I couldn't tell you what happened or how it happened. Since then, I have obviously done a lot of soul searching and self-work and have a little better idea of how kind of things come together. But it took a long time of me really beating myself up to finally get to that point where I asked for help. But I told my folks the truth who had been trying to get me help. My doctor, my primary care physician, had been talking to me about it. He knew that I was drinking more than I told him. I would lie to him about how much I drank. And he had asked me about getting help. And I told him, no, I don't need that. And then that morning, I went with my mom and dad, and they saw how bad I looked. And so I went to the doctor, went to my primary care physician. He immediately checked me into the hospital to detox me, because he was worried I was going to have a seizure and all the things that come along, going cold turkey off of a life of alcoholism. So he checked me into the hospital. They detoxed me for a couple of days. I got out, and within a couple of days after that, my parents drove me to, and this is all, I was 42 at this time. So I had my parents driving me to rehab when I was 42 years old. So they drove me from Florida up here to North Carolina, and I checked into rehab. And I have been sober, clean and sober since that day that I woke up with the gun in my hand. I have not had a drink or a mind altering substance since then. That was July 17th, 2013. So that's why the 17th is coming up here this Sunday. So I'll have 9 years. So
That's amazing. It's sounds like it's been quite a journey for you.
it really has. It really has. I wasn't quite homeless. The only reason that I wasn't homeless is because my house was a mobile home that I had paid off earlier. So I had this place to live. It was sitting on my parents' property. So I didn't have a bill there. And my mom paid my electric bill. I mean, that's all embarrassing as hell to say, but it's the truth. So I didn't really have any bills, so I could spend all my money drinking and drugging. I go back and talk to my parents about this now. And my parents are pretty amazing folks. They got married in 1959. My dad was 17 and my mom was 15 when they got married. They're still together. So they've been together a long time, 60 something years. So, but I talk to them about it now, and because of all that I've been through, working the steps of recovery and talking to them about it, they know that they enabled me a lot. They should have let me fall on my butt sooner than they did, but they love me. It's really hard to tell someone that you love to go be homeless or to go hungry, and not feed them. But my sponsor used to always say, it's a great quote. He said, who are you to play God with somebody else's life? A lot of people have to find a rock bottom before they get help. I was one of those people. I finally found it, luckily, even with my parents doing it, but I may have found it earlier. I may have died if they hadn't helped me. So I don't know. There's all kinds of ways to look at it. If they hadn't helped me early, maybe I would have died, because maybe I still wouldn't have been ready. So it's easy to second guess what happened, back when. I can't really second guess it. It all happened the way it was supposed to happen. And here I am now, hoping and praying that I have a higher power that helps me say the things that will help other people,
Right.
that hopefully my truth can help other people. So there's
So
that.
yeah, no, that's great. That was very detailed. So how about you? What was your recovery like once you finally decided, I have an issue, this is a problem? How did you move forward? Oh, for you.
Mark.
Oh, Mark. Okay. Well, like I said, I sought medical help. One of the things that's interesting in that whole world, and I've learned, again, because of my background and helping other people, I immediately start turning out and watching what's happening in this whole world. And so I immediately plugged myself into the support group that this surgeon was smart enough to set up. In fact, he's one of few in the country that's doing this. I find it funny, in the support group, just like any 12-step meeting, and this was right in the middle of COVID, so we were all online, we were doing all this together, but that daily being able to go in and just type in, man, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. That was a big encouragement. But again, I've been a big proponent of the power of community and healing for years. And so I immediately saw it. I've been two years since my surgery, and I'm still in that group. I still daily post, I still daily connect with people, and there's people that, again, we talked about, going to a 12-step group, or it's like, I've got people that have been on this journey longer than me. I got people that they're just coming in. I was just commenting on somebody who's got their surgery next month, and encouraging them, saying, hey, listen. But at the end of the day, for me, it was just putting back into the practices everything that I told people that they needed to do, and applying it back to me and doing that soul searching. Again, it's while coming to the revelation that, oh, wait a minute, I have these addictive tendencies. Oh, and if I don't deal with the addictive tendencies, I knew I would trade one addiction for another. I knew it. I knew what happened. I said, so I've got to change this. I don't want to swap this for alcoholism. I don't want to swap this for drug use, because if there's that empty spot in my heart, something I'm trying to fill, I got to figure out why, and so part of walking out that journey, doing the exercises, coming into a new relationship with food and understanding all that, and then along the way, at the same time that was happening, I meet this guy and we start this conversation about my sober truth. He tells me his dream. I'm kind of in the industry and we're just chatting. But the more I got steeped in 12-step culture, I realized I literally had been doing so much of this for years anyways. I just needed to really apply it to myself. And so Sean was probably my one in-person support person for 2 years. And again, we make the joke that says, the underlying causes of addiction are similar. It doesn't matter what your drug of choice is. And so the former alcoholic could help the former fat guy deal with this. Because that truth was universal. And so as we started working on me and those for me, as the dots connected and the light bulbs came on, I realized, oh, wait a minute. And then I started seeing my fellow peers in our support groups, their struggle points. And it was easy for me to say, hey, what's the underlying cause? Are you going back to stress eating? And they say, oh yeah, absolutely. Well, why, what's the stressor? And then again, we were able to start seeing the advice from the 12-step community over here in the weight loss world, and we all needed each other. We all needed this thing. And so for me, that recovery, walking it out and being of service to my fellow man, for me, went hand in hand. We've talked about this in a lot of our episodes. If you're having a struggle today, get out of your own self and go serve someone else. That's a coping mechanism for me, probably, but it also keeps my mind focused in that correct place. Hope that makes sense. Again, my journey's been real different than a lot of folks that are probably watching, but it was that revelation. And again, I love what you guys talk about. You don't highlight one drug of choice. It's just you're highlighting the fact that addiction exists. Yeah. We got to deal with it as a group.
Addiction is addiction.
It is, and again, if it's even in the counseling world, we could get people free from stuff, but we would always see this problem. And we have so much more coming out in the next 6 months about belief systems and everything else what happens. And, we start making external changes and a lot of us can bare knuckle it, and I had done that with weight loss for,
we're raised to be a tough guy.
Yeah, exactly. I could do it. I did it for 25
push that
years.
stuff down and put power through.
Yep.
It works until it doesn't.
Yeah. And we could all stay on track until a crisis point comes up. Right. And what's in here is like mental muscle memory. And we immediately, when the crisis hits, we're not thinking, we're just diving in and reacting to the situation. And and if our default setting is, I want to find comfort in the midst of this crap storm, you're going to find it. And if you haven't been doing the inside work, you haven't been changing how this processes the trauma, how this processes life, we just walk back into it. So for me, having had that counseling background, being hit with the concept, this is your tendencies, and it's the light bulb's on it. And I knew it, then I knew it. I go, I got to change this. I immediately knew how to go back to work. And so I immediately went back. Again, having gone to church, there's a biblical concept for this. They call it renewing your mind, but there's a lot of doctors that have been talking about this for the last few years, is that you got to change the pathways you burned into your brain, and you can do it. It's just a process. And it's for me, it was part of the inner work that I had to do. And am I 100% cured? Nope. But I'm taking time to pause when I see my buttons getting pushed before I pick up a fork. And I, there's been, one of the things I tell people that, come to me for help with weight loss, I said, I just asked the question, why are you putting that in your mouth? Are you hungry? And if you stop and think it, they'd say, well, no, not really. I'm upset. I said, you just answered your question. You're not in it for the right reasons. And so the same thing, again, we talk about all of our addictions were coping mechanisms. And so we can change the external behavior, but if we don't change the coping mechanism and learn new ways to deal with our mess, we're going to fall back into an addiction. It's going to happen. Yeah. We've all seen it. I think, and we were talking about that yesterday as we were working between episodes, and these points at which people get breakthroughs in time, claim and then fall off the wagon. And you go, what goes on? And we're searching this, and how do we help our fellows that have had great breakthroughs stay, and encourage them? How do we become that group? And I'm saying this as we're all listening because we're all interconnected with it. How do we do that thing we're all called to do and support each other? And that's what we're trying to learn right now, and that's why we like connecting with folks like you.
I look back and we've kind of already broached this subject a little bit, and he just brought it up again. But as a person who's abstinent with my drugs of choice, with mind altering substances, I look at people who have eating addictions or some of the other addictions possibly where you can't go cold turkey and you can't be abstinent. And it just, how in the world, I can't imagine how I would do this if for some reason I had to have a little alcohol every day.
Right.
How would I beat this? Because for me, it has, I can't comprehend how I would deal with that type of addiction and it's like people who are very sick or have very bad pain or whatever, and they're trying to live with it and cope with their pain. So they have to take just to live life, they have to take painkillers or whatever. And they literally can't be completely abstinent. Man, I think it's amazing if they can keep their lives in line
Right.
while doing that, because I don't know. I don't know that I could do that and not be able to abstain, if that makes any sense. For me, I need to be away from all of that. I don't want to be anywhere near the things that and I don't get me wrong, I do occasionally, I can go to a restaurant where they serve alcohol. I can do any of that kind of stuff. It's not that big a deal, but I can't imagine having to do it every day, I guess is something that I'm addicted to, and I still have to do it every day. That just blows my mind that people can do that and make some sense out of it.
Yeah.
I just run away from the Ben and Jerry's aisle.
Yeah. No, I was never as big as you, but I have been, a good 75 pounds overweight, 80 pounds overweight. And even at that's, you start huffing and puffing, walking upstairs and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's switch over real quick. Let's talk about you guys and what you're doing.
Thanks. So again, as we started coming together, we were exploring what to do with this. And early on, the name My Sober Truth, all one word, came up because, again, we're just sharing our stories. That's it. We started a podcast format about a year and a half ago, and we kept going, there's more we can do. There's more we can do. And we stopped the podcast after about 20 or so episodes. Not that we were discouraged with it. We're close, but we're not on it. And then, for lack of a better word, we ran across, we all know about this book, but we're doing our daily readings. And so we run across this classic book. Okay. And we realized, well, let's just talk about this and how it's impacting our life. And so what happens, our latest content that we create is just a daily running commentary to the daily reflection and just putting our spin on it. How does this relate to us? How does walking out the steps relate to us? And, we say that we're here for a little daily encouragement and support, helping folks in the journey.
Our goal, I think what we kind of talked about is, have it there in the mornings ready for people. So if you need, if on your trip to work, you need a little 6-minute encouraging video, 8-minute encouraging video or whatever, you can pop it on and listen to it on your way to work, or you can listen to it wherever. And it's just something short and sweet and hopefully it's helping some people out. That's the big thing. We didn't know what to do, and we kind of just decided to grab that and run with it. And now we're committed to it. We're gonna at least complete the year. We're gonna do a year's worth, and it's gonna stay out all the time.
But that goes right along with our compulsive completionist nature. We have to finish. We can't help ourselves.
Go big or go home.
Yeah.
Go big or go home, and don't do it at all.
I'm the same way. Go big or go home.
That's right.
But that's kind of the beginning. We've chatted about doing the same thing with the NA daily reflection. But at the same time, and I come from a background of creating self-help e-courses, self-improvement e-courses. And so we're working on really kind of our first course and our first book around shifting mindsets. Because again, I know the breakthroughs I've had in life have been doing that. And we want to bring some of that wisdom that I've seen from other cultures and other groups back to this group, just to not to rewrite the books, just to give folks another tool to put in their toolbox,
How we see it, basically.
It's like what you're doing. This is how I see it. This is what's working for us. And if
Right.
this works for us, it might work for someone else. And if it works for one other person, then this effort's worth it, and, we've been blessed to get some feedback. One of the things we always do, we always open with a question and close with a question, because again, we don't want it just to be us two talking heads on a vlog. We want to see what folks are doing. The one thing we're doing differently than you're doing, some other folks that we've connected are doing, is we don't feel the need to create community. We just want to support communities that exist.
Right. Maybe we get there one day, but as of right now, we're happy supporting you and you guys' community. We have some other guys that we've worked with that have some other online communities, and we're trying to help support them, as best we can as well. And it's kind of like what you're talking about. We've got, we have these things we're working towards, these books we're working towards. It's a lot of kind of my thought process in going into like the direction of the teaching that we're trying to get to is kind of, I guess I came into a problem. I didn't drink or drug over it, but for me, I kind of got into that, had a year or two in, and hear people calling it the pink cloud. I had been on this pink cloud, things were going great. And then I kind of started to come off of that pink cloud, and I started wondering what was next. How do I apply this? I haven't drank in 2 years. I haven't drugged in 2 years. I have a job. I have a car. I got an apartment. So life is coming back to me. I've kind of taken this little bite back of life. What do I do now? How do I, in terms of gamer, how do I level up?
Yeah.
How do I get to the next place that I want to go? And I was hungry for more.
Right.
I saw what I could do with the help of a program and a fellowship and the tools that I had done. I kind of saw a little piece of what I thought I could do and where I thought I could go. And I wanted to do more. And so I started looking for ways of doing that. And for me, it's always been about, if I'm in a bad place, I have a disease of the mind. It's in my mind. I need a mindset change. I need to change something going on in my head to kind of work my way through this problem. And like Mark was just saying, that's what this book and course we're coming out with. That's what it deals with. It's kind of a deeper dive into that. Change your mind, change your mindset, and keep moving forward in life. So.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is, we said it earlier. What's next? How do you take this win that you have in getting clean and apply it to those other areas of your life?
Right.
And again, it's that revelation that, this program, whatever program that you worked, whatever that helped you get this win in life, will probably help you get other wins in life if you learn how to adapt it.
Right.
And again, It's like, what's the joke we say with the 12 steps? You get to step 12 and it's basically rinse and repeat. Do this again. And this is a lifestyle, not just a destination or vacation you do with your mind. And again, it's speaking to the fatigue of living a new lifestyle. And I think part of it, where the pink cloud lifts and everything else, and people are asking, what's next? There's got to be more. And I can see that without a mindset shift, that people get tired of just doing external behavior modifications, because at some point it feels pointless. And so we keep going back to the success we had in counseling. It's not when people would stop doing the behavior, but when the underlying belief system that drove the behavior shifted and changed. When that changed, their whole life changed. Yep. And then when I start reading these 12-step over the last 2 years, I go, oh, wait a minute, we're so close. But I think some of the revelation we want to bring forth is just some practical ways to supercharge that rewiring your mind. There's been so much great science that's come over the last 10 years that we've seen in practice around the world that just changes. I tell people this all the time, and I use this example all the time when we talk about changing your mindset. You know, at some point, everybody had to learn times tables in schools. And the first time you learn times tables, you're at 2 times 2. You're going 2 times 2. I mean, you're doing this. And your mind, you're going 1, 2, 3, 4. But between practicing, reciting, drills, all these things that you do, there comes a point that that concept gets so wide in your brain. When you get the first 2 out, your mind's already at 4. And that's how we learn as people. That's just how our minds work for the most part. And it doesn't stop as we get older. We just get more entrenched. And again, as we start shifting mindsets, we shift mindsets away from those entrenched pathways, and we get the opportunity to learn new habits internally that affect our external actual behaviors. And so again, we're looking forward to sharing a lot of that on our daily stuff. We sprinkle a little bit that in, but again, it's just an encouragement to stay on the journey. Stay on the journey. It gets better. And to be blind, it kind of helps us because it keeps us on the journey, keeps us focused. Right. When people thank us, we say, yeah, well, no, thank you for number one, listening. But number two, it gives us the opportunity to know that at least we're helping somebody. You know what I'm saying? That's helping us.
I mean, exactly. This helps us. Recovery is such an ingrained part of my life at this point that I mean, I have a regular job, but with someone every day, I'm talking about recovery. Yeah. Someone somewhere, whether it's him, whether it's somebody else in the recovery community. I recover out loud at work as well. So people that I work with all know that I'm in and around recovery. So people will come and talk to me there, or, it just opens up doors for people to be able to share with you things they may not have been able to share with you before. So I try to recover out loud in all of my life. And I also try to make sure that I let everybody know that as I recover out loud, I also make mistakes out loud. So don't hold recovery responsible for my mistakes. That's me messing up, Yeah. So it's, I don't know, man. I just feel like, we were talking about it a little earlier with you. I can't remember if it was before we started recording or not, but I feel like as long as I keep doing, use that little cliche quote, if I keep doing the next right thing, right things keep happening to me.
Absolutely.
And, whether you think it's God, a higher power, whether you think it's karma, whether you think it's just how the universe works and how the universe is wired, whatever your thoughts on the process are, it works.
Right.
I mean, I don't think anyone who's ever lived in it doesn't believe that it works. Right. And I also know that the opposite is true. When I start getting down, the further down that I get, and if I don't check myself, I can let myself keep going down into this abyss. But luckily I've kind of been given these tools and taught these things and figured some things out for myself, and have a relationship with a higher power that I can turn to. I have a relationship with good friends who are kind of the same mindset. We're all in this together, trying to work through it. So I'm able to check myself kind of before I fall off that ledge, and kind of bring myself back to, I literally walked in here. I was off yesterday and today. I walked into the studio yesterday. Within 2 minutes of talking to this guy, he looks at me and goes, because we were going to record, we were all set to record some episodes for My Sober Truth yesterday. Within 2 minutes of talking to this guy, he looks at me and goes, let's go have a cigar before we start recording. And I went, okay. He goes, your mind's not in this yet. Let's go smoke a cigar. Let's talk for an hour, and then we'll come back and record. And I went, and then literally while we're talking, we're in the middle of a conversation, and I don't remember what I said, but I said something, and I went, all right, I'm ready to go record now. It just took that little talking to my buddy and kind of getting my life back to realizing, what, I had a stressful weekend. I worked all weekend, had a stressful weekend at work, but you know what? I don't have to let that ruin my next 2 days off.
Absolutely.
I can move past that and move on and start doing the things that do bring me joy, which is doing this, talking to you, talking about these things that help my life. I love it. It does bring me joy.
So. And the irony is I walked in this morning and pretty much just had the same response. He goes, "Are you okay?" I said, "I had a stressful day when I went
That's
home."
why the
But it's
fellowship,
okay. But it's
that's why the
okay.
fellowship's so important, you know?
It's exactly. It's
Absolutely. And we started talking about this, and then it kind of got his mind out of it. And we started both kind of going, and we were really excited to do this interview with you. And we're like, all right, let's get ready to do this, you know. And, you know, we're walking around putting our shirts on and getting our lights ready and everything. And next thing I know, he's over here smiling.
Well, you know, and again, it's, you said it, it's, you know, the old way that we used to handle things. And I say we, because I think when I say this, a lot of people go, yeah.
You do a line of chocolate chip cookies.
God, I could used to do a line of chocolate chip cookies. You guys just, I could do 2 or 3, but that's it. I'm just saying, you know, if I was going to go, I was going to go for it. But what I was going to say is the old way we used to handle things is we just isolate.
Yeah.
These things we would do in secret, we would, I mean, you said it earlier, we'd stuff it, but that doesn't solve the problem. And again, part of learning to deal with this is, okay, I've got to own up when it's not okay. It's okay that it's not okay, you know. And what do we say all the time? A problem shared is a problem halved. And so why do I want to carry this burden by myself? And I go, these are things that I'm trying to learn and undo the bad program. Well, you know, my mom used to call it the poor potty training. It's not poor potty training. It's just how that generation was.
Yeah.
I mean, heck,
That's all they knew.
We had 2 generations of men, 3 generations of men that came back from the war in 1900s. If you think about this one, with severe shell shock, but or PTSD, and they never talked about it.
Yep.
You know, I think, you know, and it was
Those are the guys who raised us.
You know, and
So-
again, and you just stuff that down. We don't talk about this.
Yep.
But we're realizing now, says to really be tough, to really be strong, to really be a man, you need to be honest. You need to throw that stuff out there. You need to show the world it's okay to be broken. I think the first time I apologized to my kids, I think they almost lost their crap because they're like, you know, what? But I'm thinking, no, if I'm wrong, let's be wrong. If, you know, if something's wrong, let's fix it, you know. And it's like the serenity prayer. If I know that this is a problem that can be changed and it's within my power and my higher power's power to help me change it, then let's do it. If it's just something I need to put up with or accept and walk away from, then let's do it. It's learning all these lessons that we keep learning in the other, you know, on the other side of addiction, and keep applying them. So, yeah.
Getting towards the end here, I just wanted to ask you guys each one last question.
Go for it.
Do you have any advice for people watching and listening?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Don't look at it. I can say for myself, you know, for me, my challenge for years is I wanted to lose 100 pounds. And, you know, I could do that first 30 pounds. And it was like, all of a sudden my eyes saw the mountain of what I wanted to achieve. And it discouraged me. But when my mind got off of that and I started looking at, well, I'm just going to, I stopped worrying about that result. And I started focusing on what do I need to do for today? Okay, I got to the end of this day. I did what I was supposed to do, and I do it tomorrow, and I do it tomorrow. This one day at a time, one step at a time. Don't negate it because it works, number one, but don't get so lost on that grand vision that you miss the journey along the way and the lessons that you're going to learn, because those are the things that will change your life and give you the success you need to eventually get to that goal. You know, I use an example all the time about playing a game. You know, I'm a little bit of a gamer, not an avid gamer, but I'm playing this game that I've been playing for 6 months. And I realized the other day I'm within the top 200 in the world playing this game. And I realized I'm not that good. But what I've done is I played it 30 minutes every day. I was just consistent, you know. And so part of being clean and walking this lifestyle out for a lifetime is simple commitment and one little step at a time, not worrying about that, because again, having that need to be a completionist. If the goal seems overwhelming, we say screw it. That's a natural tendency. So focus on the little things right in front of you and be faithful to it. Long way to say that.
I'll be a little quicker than that. If you need help, find a program.
Absolutely.
Find something that you can relate with. Find a group of people who have done what you want to do, and take their advice. Do the things that these programs that are known to help people, do those things.
Yep.
Give it a shot, give it a try. I mean, my old sponsor used to always say, he knows what I'm going to say, that's why he's laughing. He used to always say, give us 90 days. If you don't like what you got, we'll gladly refund your misery. So,
I love it. You know,
it's just, you don't have to keep suffering in
Yeah.
silence.
absolutely.
Find someone, find a place, find some people, find a program. If you don't like what I'm saying, there's somebody out there who's
Absolutely.
saying stuff you do like. Find some people that you relate with and get help somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's a beautiful world out here, and it's amazing. And I want everybody to, I hope everybody has a great life. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing for me. Just get help somewhere.
Yeah. I would add this one thing is, no matter where you're at in life, when you're listening, just listen to this words. You were created for more. You weren't meant for this addiction.
Right.
And there's help out there to get you to where you need to be.
Yep.
And like you said, find it. Keep your eyes open. Run after that. Search for that just as diligently as you search for your drug of choice, and you'll find it.
Oh, and one more thing. You can see it back here, mysobertruth.com. You can check us out on
No,
there.
that was the last thing I was gonna do.
Oh, okay.
Let's, it's all you right now. Give us your sales pitch. What's up with your Sober Truth? I want to know all about it.
Okay, so right now, check us out on our website, mysobertruth.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're just trying to build a following out there. That's where our daily podcast lives out there. It's YouTube/mysobertruth, all one word. And then comment on stuff. You feed us back. You know, we kind of know what we know, but as we get feedback from the folks that are listening to us, we adjust and we adapt, and we want to know what helps folks, because we're just here to serve the community.
Yeah, if you like what we're doing, but you want to hear something else that you haven't heard from us so far, shoot us an email, leave us a comment on something. We read all of that stuff. So just let us know what you want to hear, and we'll talk about it. I mean, we may have some experience about it. We may not. If I don't have any experience with it, I'll go out and find somebody and bring them on the show, and we'll figure that out. We'll sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, that's the great thing about this community. Right. Someone has had the experience.
Someone's had that.
And the more we come together like this and cross-pollinate groups, the better. You know, it's that old adage of the rising water brings up all ships. Let's bring everybody up in this one.
And I'd also just want to say, man, I've read through a lot of your stuff, Jim.
It's good stuff.
The program that you're doing, I mean, it's great stuff, man. I really appreciate what you're doing. And, your group is thriving. You're obviously doing some good things. And I mean, it all just looks great. And we appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It really means a lot.
Yeah, man.
So that was www.youtube.com/mysobertruth.
Right. And then the website is just mysobertruth.com. And we are on Facebook too. And it's just, you can find everybody's My Sober Truth. And we'll probably get on the other socials after a while. We've been reserving them up, but we both work full time. And so we're doing what
Understood. Me too. It's a pain.
Well, this thing that we're doing now, this daily podcast, it's a huge undertaking, as you well know, trying to put something out every day. Yeah. Even though it's a short little video, you have to record them. Yep. It takes time. We have to, we do a little writing to try and figure out what we're going to say, what our thoughts were, get that down. So it's a big undertaking, and we're really proud of what we're doing. But we're trying to find time to do this other stuff as well. We're trying to get this book written, and then it probably happens to you as well. A lot of the people that I talk to, they're kind of doing this sort of stuff while you're in the middle of doing something that you've come up with. Mm-hmm. Another idea pops in your head. No, I want to run off down this rabbit trail a little while. No, I got to, okay, come on back. Let me work on this thing that I'm working on. Reel myself back in here. So it's, I can't wait to see where all this goes. And recover out loud, man. If you're out there and you're doing good, recover out loud and help people as best you can to not suffer in silence. I love that saying. I've seen it recently, and it just really, really hits my heart every time I see it and hear it.
That's great. And I think you guys are doing good things, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. And I think you're heading in the right direction.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Thank you, Jim.
So yeah, we really appreciate everything you do. So it seems like a good place to wrap it up. I guess my last question is, do you have anything you want to add? Anything you think we didn't touch upon?
For me, no. I mean, I appreciate your questions, and for for a lot of us addicts, I'm usually not for a loss of words. I can usually think of something to say. So, but with that, I just, like I kind of already added there, just stay close to your groups, find a group, stay close to your groups, recover out loud, talk to other people, and get help, man.
I couldn't say it better. Absolutely. Connect, stay connected, keep connecting, find your people, because your tribe will help keep you clean.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Good way to say it. So let's wrap this up. So everybody watching and listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below and give us a like. Also subscribe, and you'll see when we upload new videos.
Yep.
You could check us out on www.addicts-anonymous.com, where you'll see we have plenty of resources, as well as a lot of approved literature. We have a bunch of articles that you can read on all different topics. And you can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, and TikTok. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed what you saw and heard, and until next time.